Morning and welcome to this Monday Minute. We're continuing our study on the Word of God, and we're looking at this book, The Life of the Believer. And today the question is, why do we have so many English translations? There are over 100 complete English translations of the Bible. Well, there are four main reasons why we have different translations. The first one is sentence structure. The Old Testament was written primarily in Hebrew with a little Aramaic, and the New Testament was written in the language of the time, Greek. And these languages have a different sentence structure than English to make it understandable. And so when translators translated from Hebrew, they had to make it readable in English, so they would have to change the sentence structure up a little bit. And different translators translated it to varying degrees. The second reason is word translation. For instance, a Hebrew word could mean several different English words. And so when a translator translated the Hebrew word, they had to pick, according to their understanding of the context, what the sentence was saying, which English word best fit in that sentence. And different translators would choose different words. Doesn't mean that it's wrong, but what it does is it just gives one perspective of the original meaning. The third one is the manuscripts used. There are different ancient manuscripts, and these ancient manuscripts at 400, 500 AD, these ancient manuscripts have slight variations. And so, depending on whether they used the Sinaiticus or the Alexander or the Syriac manuscripts, depending on which one you used, would affect your translation. But these minor variations don't affect any major teaching of the Word of God, and they only affect a very, very small percentage of the Bible. The fourth one was the philosophy of the translator. Translators have different philosophies and approaches to their translations. Some try to stay as close as possible to the original, so the sentence structure is a little awkward in English, and sometimes it's harder to understand. Other translators tried to make it more understandable, so they would uh, change and take a little more leeway in sentence structure and word translation in order to make it more understandable for the English reader. So, for instance, you'll have the New American Standard Bible, which is considered a very literal translation of the Bible, a word for word translation. It's harder to understand because the sentence structure is not quite what we're used to in English, but it stays closer to the original uh, languages. But then you'll have translations like the Living Bible, which are called paraphrases, and they take a more liberal approach to sentence structure and translation to make it very understandable for the reader. And so you have the spectrum of literal translations to paraphrase translations, and in between, you have everything in between. And so that's why the different translations. One last thing I want to talk about, and I'll do this next week on the Word of God, is how do I find things in the Bible and how do I study the Word of God? So we'll look at that next week. You have a blessed week. We'll see you Wednesday night for Bible study and then next Sunday at church. Looking forward to a great time in the house of God. Have a great week. God bless.